Yeah, but the point here is I just don't know why you're concluding here that God is endorsing the R word by this stuff. I mean, that just seems
Right.
strange to jump to that.
Well,
So you're
so
thinking, okay, well,
Mary,
because God did this, then that's a free ticket for a man to go out and grape a woman, according to God. Is that what you're saying?
well, no, that's not what I'm saying. Like
Okay.
the fact that Mary was graped by Yahweh, I mean, I think that's just a fact of the story of the Gospels.
Well, I definitely wouldn't agree to that.
What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless Engineer, and I critically analyze apologist claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. And what you just saw was a clip from today's video. Today's video was collected from interactions with me and a live stream on TikTok. So if you want to take part in these conversations, join in on the live chat, or even, request up yourself to have a conversation with me, please consider hitting those links down below in the description so that you too can participate in these call-in shows. Now, I know that you really want to get into this video today, so I'm going to go ahead and let you do it. So if you want to fuck around and find out how crazy this call is going to get today, then please stay tuned. Oh shit, no degree! What up, no degree? How you doing?
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's ironic because I think the last time I was in your live, you kicked me out of it.
I don't recall.
Okay.
It's been a long time. Was that before we debated or after we debated?
It was after we debated.
Was that before? Oh, maybe I did. I'm sure there was moral justification for it.
Oh, I'm sure there was on your end. Anyways, yeah. So which particular topic do you want to tackle? I mean, I know that we've already tackled the chattel slavery thing in a debate.
I heard you talking about grape, the R word there, and I was wondering, do you think that the Bible is endorsing that, or is that like you do chattel slavery? Is that your position?
Yes, for both of the top two claims that I'm making, Mary was raped by Yahweh. That's very evident, and it's definitely something that's endorsed. And then there's Yahweh enabling sexual slavery. That's definitely endorsed as well, which I covered that in our debate, so I don't know if you'd be interested in talking about that. But
well, as far as Mary, the Bible does talk about her, and she's saying, how is this, can this be, since I'm a virgin and stuff? So the idea is here, she never did actually have any kind of intercourse.
Well, what I'm claiming, sorry to interrupt. What I'm claiming is that she was impregnated in some way. It doesn't matter to me if God snapped his fingers and made her pregnant with the gamete or the fetus immediately, or if somehow he artificially inseminated her. My point is that there was no consent considered or asked by God of Mary, and so that's what makes this entire interaction grape.
Well, just so we're clear here, if someone artificially inseminated a woman without her consent, you're saying that would be the same as her being the R word. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's essentially the same thing as being raped. You're being forcibly made to bear a child. And so for the purposes of this conversation, it's effectively the same thing. So that would definitely be a violation of that person's bodily autonomy, which is also an essential part of this. Oh no, I think Zeno's messing with his signal. No degree. Lord Zeno is messing with your signal right now.
Yeah.
Hold on. I think you're stable.
Testing 1, 2,
yep,
3, 3.
I got you. No, sorry, I lost you again there, bud. Holy Spirit, activate. Holy Spirit, activate. Everybody pray for no degree required signal right now. Oh, hold on. No degree, are you there?
All right, I'm back.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I've got you now.
Clear.
Yep, I got you.
So what I was saying is I would avoid using the word rape there with Mary, because that would imply that if someone just was artificially inseminated, that they were raped as well. So I think that causes confusion there. You might try to
No.
argue, well, she didn't consent, but to use the
For
word rape,
I would say
I wouldn't say that.
I would say forced impregnation in this instance is essentially what I'm talking about. So like whether you want to be very technical about it and make grape be, only when, the natural way, I guess you could say that we could think about it. I'm trying to be TikTok safe when I'm describing this. Either that way or another way, like it's still God forcibly put a fetus into her uterus to gestate. And so however
Well,
you
that's
want to
the
do
other
that,
question.
it was against her consent, or her consent was never considered, and she only gave a post hoc.
Well, I don't think that's true.
No, yeah. Can you point out the biblical verse where the angel asks her for her consent?
Well, whenever she's telling that this is going to happen, she says, "May it be as you said," or something like that. So
Right. Yeah, that's
she's
a
consenting.
no. She's not consenting. That's a post hoc thing. The angel comes down and says, "Hey, you're going to carry the Son of God," and she's like, "I'm your servant, I guess." Like that's the vibe.
But she was excited about it. Don't wouldn't you say? Because then when she
It
meets
doesn't no. So
Elizabeth,
right,
she meets Elizabeth later, she has this song praising God and saying, "Hey, He looked upon me, my lowly servant," and all that. So she's excited about all this. So
right.
clearly, I would say she
Well, no.
consent.
Well, no. So that doesn't matter for this argument. My argument is the angel never asked her for her consent. Just because she had a post hoc acceptance of the event does not mean that she consented to it or her consent was considered. And because her consent was not considered and she was forcefully impregnated, that is grape. I get it. She was a traumatized little girl who was raped, and she came to an acceptance of what had happened, and she made the best of it. Right?
Yeah, but don't you think you're being a little dishonest there?
No, I'm not being dishonest. No, so no degree. If you go and you forcibly have sex with a woman and forcibly impregnate her, whether it doesn't even have to include the sex, you could forcibly impregnate a woman, and she just you didn't ask for their consent, you didn't consider their consent or anything like that, and they just sort of accepted that it happened. Is that a violation, or is that okay?
Sure, that could be a violation. Yeah.
Okay, well then apply that to God then.
What makes you think that Mary was like that, though, is what I'm saying.
I mean, that's what you just described. You just described.
I don't think you could conclude that from reading what Mary was saying.
Well, no. So you, like in this particular situation, you went and forcefully impregnated a woman without asking for her consent first. She reluctantly accepted afterwards and made the best of the situation after you forced her.
Doesn't look like any reluctancy to me when I read those passages.
I'm saying that it doesn't matter. I don't okay, fine. Not reluctantly. Just because she in a post hoc way accepted that the event happened, does that make it okay? Is it okay for you to forcefully impregnate a woman with IVF if as long as when the impregnation is done and she's carrying a fetus, she's fine with it?
Well, when I'm reading that text, I just reasonably conclude that based on her reaction and stuff, that God had already known ahead of time that this would have been something she would have been on board with. So I don't think he's going and violating anything. And then when you see her reaction,
well, yeah, again, no degree. But again, no degree. Put it in a very human context here. If you actually heard somebody say, "Yeah, but I knew that she'd be okay with being forcefully impregnated by me, so that's okay. I didn't have to ask for consent." Do you think whether or not whether or not the person is okay with it? Do you think that absolves you from asking for consent?
Well, no, I think he just reasonably assumed. Well, I mean, I shouldn't use the word assume here. God just knew that. Just like think about today, you see, and look, this is a bad example, but let's just imagine that, there's a rich man. He's got a lot of power, very good looking, a lot of influence. He's got women throwing themselves at him all the time. And he just knows there's this one particular woman who would do anything, would love to bear his children and stuff like this. And he just says, okay, well, you're going to bear my children. And then she's excited about it. I don't consider that, obviously, him violating her consent. Would you?
No, I think that the power differential there is definitely part of a power assertive grape situation.
Well, I mean,
that's a very specific situation that's deeply like researched and is deep, especially with me having a military background. Like, just like in the military, if you have like an officer that just assumes that a subordinate is going to be okay with being impregnated by him, that doesn't make it okay for him to go and impregnate that subordinate. In that situation, like it creates a power dynamic where the subordinate doesn't feel like that they can say no. Just like in that situation, with the idealized nature of the person that is idealizing this rich dude, it creates a power imbalance. So, I mean, ultimately, I think that getting consent in one way or another is always paramount. If God understood that, then he would have made it a paramount thing in the story. He doesn't do that, though.
I just don't think that that's really realistic, though. Even in today's world.
What's not realistic? Asking for consent? Asking for consent's not realistic?
No, what I'm saying is this. You said the power dynamics thing.
Right.
Have you looked at stats on dating apps on what women choose, who they want to choose to be with?
They choose. Mary didn't get a choice.
Well, I think she did, but women,
no, she didn't. Where's the choice? God, the all-powerful God of the universe, comes to you, no degree required, and says, "I want you to bear my son." And do you think that you have the capacity to say no?
Well, presumably, God already knew she would be on board with it anyway. That's just an ad hoc supposition. Well, I mean, we believe that God knows these things, obviously. And Mary, clearly, you can tell by her state of mind there, and then even later when she sings this song praising God, that we can reasonably assume that prior to that, she would be perfectly okay with that once she understood it.
So no degree required. Can you explain what consent is?
Yeah, choosing to take part in something.
Well, and was Mary given that choice?
Yeah, I think she was.
Was there ever a point where the angel was like, "Hey, Mary, do you want to do me a solid?"
Yeah, I think probably her life of dedication to God prior would show that she would be on board with that. Just like a woman who's following a guy around who's very wealthy and rich, and she talks about him all the time, practically worships him. We see this on dating apps with women today. They practically choose like the top 10% of men. And
they choose! No degree, they choose! Like, in that particular respect, they choose the person that they're going to go out on a date with. Just because they choose to go out on a date with that
person. Up a power dynamic there.
Well,
the power dynamic is irrelevant here, is what I'm saying.
No, it's not irrelevant, especially not in God. Not with God. You think that there's no power dynamic between man and God?
Oh, and what I'm saying is a woman would love to be married to a king than a peasant any day of the week.
You can't assume that. That's a broad generalization there. That's a fallacy.
Well, it's a safe assumption based on dating stats today.
So I mean, like a good example of this is that there's that movie with Mel Gibson, Braveheart, where the woman chooses the peasant warrior guy over the local king, but the local king demands that you know, he have his night, the marriage night with her or whatever in the fuck. And, you know, she doesn't want that. So, I
Yeah,
mean, like that.
That's more of a fairy tale thing.
No, I mean that kind of well, no, but that kind of situation. No, I mean that kind of situation happened all the time at that point. Like there was what was it called, prima nocta or whatever. Like that's an actual thing that happened, and like not every woman wants to go and fuck the king.
Well, yeah, what I'm not sure there's going to be some exceptions to the rule. But the general rule, and this can even be backed up by polls today. They've taken polls asking women, would they rather be the wife of a peasant or the side chick of a king? And most of them say side chick of a king. So what I'm saying is,
you're referencing vague like polls and everything like that. Like I have no idea what poll you're talking about, and even if it's accurate,
there's just.
But still, it comes down. Hold on, no degree. It still comes down to the fact that they are choosing. They are choosing. They are making the choice. They are giving consent to be in that kind of relationship. Right. Yeah. And and you can't point to a singular verse where Mary agrees beforehand or the angel gives her the opportunity to refuse.
Okay, well, I mean, you don't think she could have refused?
I think that the angel never gave her the option.
Remember when Moses didn't want to be the mouthpiece for God? I mean, he refused that. What did God do? He sent him his brother. Okay, well, he can talk for you then. Of course, you know. So what I'm saying is we do see examples of people not actually.
Yeah, and what happened with Moses?
Well, ultimately, he ended up eventually putting himself into that role.
Right. But making it inevitable to follow God, right? Like that entire thing. And you're supposing no. So you're saying that a 12 to 14-year-old girl possessed the ability to say no to God, the same God that she had prayed to every single day of her life since she could pray, the same God that she has been indoctrinated to revere. She could say no to that God.
I don't consider that indoctrination. I just think that, I think she revered him. I think she thought highly of God, worshipped God. So, I think here to say, oh, this violated her free will and she didn't have consent here, I think that's a stretch.
No. So you're totally missing my entire point. No degree, you're missing my entire point here. Like, I don't know why you keep missing my point. It's the fact that there was no consent that was considered prior to voluntelling her that she was going to carry the Son of God. And the fact that you can't understand that speaks volumes about your own.
Do you think if she had been some sort of like unbeliever, do you think that God would have chosen her?
I don't know. I think that if God wanted to emphasize his power and emphasize, his ability to affect things in the real world, then choosing somebody who was on the outs, of the religion or whatnot, would have made it more powerful. Sure.
Okay. Well, look, I think that this is just an extreme stretch here to try to say that Mary.
It's not an extreme stretch. It's not an extreme stretch to say that the angel never asked her for consent. That's not an extreme stretch. Okay. That's just literacy.
Okay, well, if I say I would agree with you that the angel never asked for her consent, is that the same as saying that God violated Mary's will?
Yes.
See, that's where we would disagree. I could say, okay, well, maybe it's the case that the angel didn't ask for consent, but it wasn't the case that this was a violation of her will. That she was,
Well, I think that the fact that there is no consent that is considered, that is the problem. Like, regardless of whether or not she was excited about it or whatever, the entire point is that she was a 12 to 14-year-old girl. And she was not given the ability, one, to refuse. Her consent wasn't considered, but also with the fact that she was a 12 to 14-year-old child, that makes it statutory rape, even at the very least.
What makes you think she was that young, though?
Because that's how young people were. That's how young women were married off. They were married off right after they entered puberty, when they could start bearing children.
Okay, well, I mean, it's just so you're taking this and concluding because this was the social norm, and that the angel didn't
Oh
consider
no.
consent,
So
that it's violating
I'm
her
concluding
will.
based off of scholarship
You're
that
concluding
where
this
no, I'm concluding based off of scholarship where rabbis recorded the process for this at the time, and they recorded that girls as young as 8 could be sold off to prospective husbands. If a girl under 8 was sold off to a prospective husband, then the prospective husband couldn't sell her back or anything like that. And then typically girls between the ages of 12 to 14 were married off to men of age like 20 and 30.
Okay, so we see here, according to scholars, that she was probably 12 to 14.
Right.
You're saying that even though she expresses excitement and gratitude for this, you're saying her consent was never counted in.
No. So I think
violated
post
her
hoc
free
acceptance.
will.
I think post hoc acceptance of the fact does not imply that she would have given consent if she had been given the option. So my entire
Well, I
point,
think it would be reasonable.
my entire point is that the angel nor God asked for her consent. If consent was of a paramount importance to God, he would have made sure,
Okay.
even if it was a redundant thing, he would have made sure, hey, do you want to do this? He did not ask that, but also there's the age where I don't think that a 12 to 14-year-old girl should be forced in any kind of capacity, whether she's on board with it or not. She should not be forced to carry a child.
Well, I would disagree with the scholars saying Mary is that age based on what she's saying.
Well, yeah, because it doesn't help your argument. It doesn't help your position. It means that you've got to be a grape apologist now. So I can totally agree.
It doesn't sound like the words of a 12 to 14-year-old. Sounds like the words of maybe an 18-year-old, 16.
Oh, okay. So now you're just going to pretend that she was of age and not underage.
I'm just saying that she clearly had a maturity level beyond 12-year-olds today is all.
You understand that that's really gross of you to say, right? Like, I mean, you're basically making the case that hebephilia is okay.
The scholars are just going on, what other things, but that may not be.
No degree. Let me ask you something. No degree. Let me ask you something. Right now, if you weren't married, would you marry a 12-year-old child?
No.
Okay, why is it okay for God to forcefully impregnate one?
Well, according to scholars, that was the social norm.
Oh, okay. Let's say the person's 18. If you were not married right now, would you marry an 18-year-old?
Well, let's imagine. I mean, I'm almost 50, so no, I wouldn't marry an 18-year-old. But let's imagine I was in my mid-20s or something like that, or even close to 30. Yeah, I mean, possibly would marry an 18-year-old.
Oh, wow. All right, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, but the point here is I just don't know why you're concluding here that God is endorsing the R word by this stuff. I mean, that just seems strange to jump to that.
Well, so Mary,
because God did this, then that's a free ticket for a man to go out and grape a woman, according to God. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, that's not what I'm saying. Okay. Like the fact that Mary was graped by Yahweh, I mean, I think that's just a fact of the story of the Gospels.
Well, I definitely wouldn't agree to that.
Well, yeah, that's what we've been talking about. And then Yahweh enabled sexual slavery. Any marriage in the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, is an evidence of sexual slavery.
Well, let me ask you something about that.
Okay.
What your good buddy, the legendary Dr. Josh Bowen.
Oh my God! Please don't come up here and lie about Dr. Josh Bowen.
I'm not lying.
Now.
I'll give you.
You have lied several times about Dr. Josh Bowen.
I'm going to give you exactly. If you go to 2023 in his interview with Alex O'Connor, he says here that he viewed this as the S-word slavery, but he said they probably didn't view it that way then. And said that this is actually a protection for the women, according to that society and that time period. So what
Right.
are your
I don't care about as far as my argument here goes. I would agree with Josh in this particular aspect. Like, I don't think the Israelites thought of it as sexual slavery, but we can identify it now. We know it now as sexual slavery. Like that.
well, I wouldn't want to
It.
jump to that conclusion.
No. I mean,
I don't
yeah.
think they're looking for
Regardless of how
property in that regard.
regardless of how the Israelites viewed this practice, it is still sexual slavery. It doesn't matter if the Israelites normalize this particular practice; it's still sexual slavery. You
But you
can't
don't
just
think that you don't think God is giving because of that implies that we get to do this today, do you? And God doesn't have a problem with it. Is that what you're trying to say?
No. So I'm not. I'm not saying no. So I'm not saying that Christians are called to do the sexual slavery now. Although there are Christians out there currently engaged in sexual slavery. Like, I'm thinking about the Quiverful movement or any kind of Christian community. Quiverful?
I don't know what that is.
It's the Quiverful. They had that show. I forget the oldest
kids and counting.
No, it was the guy Josh.
The big family.
Yeah, the big family. It was Josh.
Yeah, that's the 19 kids and counting.
Maybe that's it.
Like 156 kids and counting by the time it was over.
Right. I can't remember what their name is. Luckily, Duggars. Yes. Josh Duggar and all them. Yeah, they're engaged in sexual slavery because the fathers control who the daughters marry, and there's even sexual slavery like in Christianity adjacent religions like Islam. And Judaism. So, I mean, sexual slavery in those religious communities still exist. And sexual slavery still exists in some portions of the Christian communities out there. So there definitely are Christians out there that consider this to be some kind of divine thing, that fathers are to control the sexual lives of their daughters.
I do agree that there's cultures that still have arranged marriages and stuff like this.
Right.
I don't really
Christian cultures.
That's a bad thing. Yeah, I mean, even in
it is a bad thing. What the fuck are you talking about? No, arranged marriages are definitely a bad thing.
Well, since you're on that, there's a reality show, I believe, on Netflix called Arranged, and you have this gypsy culture who they identify as Christians, and they're talking about this, arranging marriage and all this, and both the daughter and the son are excited about it. Now, there gets to be some drama in it, obviously, but the marriage itself, they're very excited, very happy to marry each other, and they consider this like a great thing. In fact, the uncle actually said something to the effect of, "We bought her. She's ours now. She's part of our family." And
okay, so hold on. So no degree. I need to ask you something. So there is a case. I can't recall the case right now, but there was a case where a family had a child. A small girl born, without notifying like the government, without, it was a home birth and everything like that. And once the girl got to be like about 8 years old, all of the brothers and the father would grape that small child in the house. And so that kind of thing became normalized to the little girl. Do you consider that to be grape, or because this little girl?
Yeah, I consider that.
Okay, how is this different than the Mary thing, or this whole sexual slavery thing? Because
in this case, you have an arranged marriage in which you have a son who is supposed to value his wife. She's supposed to become part of his flesh. And she's supposed to do the same to him, and there's supposed to be this Christ-centered relationship here, where the husband is supposed to love his wife as Christ loved the church, and is willing to give himself up, and she's supposed to respect her husband. So I don't look at that as, oh yeah, this is this is endorsing grape here because they're all active participants and are all excited about taking part in this.
Yeah, but my argument is that regardless of whether or not it's normalized from an objective standpoint, we can identify how wrong it is and how the bodily autonomy and the freedom of the women in these situations has been violated. So like that's
Well, let
my
me
entire
ask
argument.
you,
Well, I do have a few other people that want to come up and talk,
can
and
I
so
ask you if you're prepared to condemn all of the societies that practice this and has practiced for, like Code of
yeah, yes,
Hammurabi, ancient
no,
Greece,
I
all of
do.
this?
I condemn anybody that
Okay,
practices that kind of marriage. Yes.
okay. Well, as always, it was a pleasure talking to you. If you want to debate again, I'm more than happy on something.
All right. Awesome. Maybe we can set that up in the future there, no degree.
Okay,
All right. See you later.
just prepare to lose again.
All right. Sure, bud. All right, heathens. Well, that was a great call for us to take. Now, I would love to know what you thought about this call down below in the comments. And while you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of content. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.